So we're going to look at some examples of stating the null and the alternate hypothesis. This is a very important process. So let's look at some examples here. And these examples are sort of going to be helpful for us to be able to state our hypotheses properly. And as I mentioned previously, we have always two. We have the null hypothesis, that there is no change, the status quo, this is how it is. And we always have the alternate hypothesis, the hypothesis that says that yes, there is a difference. And if I reject my null, okay, if the null is definitely wrong, no, it is not, this is not correct, okay? Something has to go into its place, okay? We're always going to either reject the null or fail to reject the null. We're not accepting anything, we're just rejecting the null. So here are some videos. Let's look at the first one. The average cost of a DVD player is greater than $79.95. If you don't know what's a DVD player, that's okay, no worries. It used to be a piece of technology we used to use to watch movies once upon a time before streaming services. So average cost, so we're talking here about a mu. This business over here is mu. And we are saying here that it is greater. So this is my suspicion. This business over here is my suspicion. So this is going to be my alternate. Okay, so the status quo is that it is not different. It's $79.95. Okay, now if I'll find that it's not by mistake, that there is a really big difference between my my X bar, my sample, and this mean, then I will reject this. What will come into play instead of this? Well, what will come into play instead of this is that they are greater, that mu is greater than $79.95. Is this okay? That's what we're doing here. Okay, let's look at the next example. The average resting time the average resting pulse rate of male marathon runners is greater than 70 beats per minute. So I have here some kind of information. I think that marathon runners should have, 70 beats per minute of heart rate. And I am saying here that I suspect, this is my suspicion. This over here is my alternate. This is my alternative. If this fails, if the mu is not equal 70, then I should probably adopt that mu is greater than 70. Okay, we are always making our statements of the null and the alternative in the population parameters terms. Okay, I don't need to make a statement about the sample. The sample I know, the sample I tested, and I know my mean of the sample. Now the population parameter, I've got no clue, and this is why I'm having these ideas, these hunches, these claims, and I want to test them. Okay. Alrighty, so always your alternate is going to be what comes into place if you rejected your null, if you rejected the status quo. All right, let's look at the next one. The average number of monthly visit sessions on the internet by a person at home has increased from 36 in 2009. Okay, so this business over here, this is my suspicion. This is what I think that happened. So my null hypothesis is that average number of visits is 36, okay? In some samples, it might be higher. In some samples, it might be lower, plus minus. You know, there is normal variability. But the question is, if I am having somebody who has been on the internet 48 times, 97 times, does that mean that there is now real increase? So the status quo is that the mean number of visits on the internet is 36. Now everybody just sits on the internet, but in 2009, there were visits to the internet. Now our alternate, our suspicion over here is that mu is going to be greater than 36. That's my suspicion. Okay, so if I am going to be able to reject this idea here, then this is going to come and fill its place to fill the void. All right, so far we've been looking at greater, increased. So let's look at some other examples over here. The average income of accountants has increased again. So the mean is going to be 51,497. And then the alternate is that it increased, so it's greater than 51,497. And this one over here is very similar. Average age of first-year medical students is increased from 27. So again, this is 27, and I have some kind of data that it might be greater than that. Okay, it used to be 27, but I feel like now it's a little bit more. So let's look at this question over here. The average weight loss for people who exercise 30 minutes per day for 6 weeks is less than 8.2 pounds. So somebody told me that it might be more, but it's actually less. This is my suspicion, okay? Then the status quo is that we are losing 8.2 pounds. That's what I expect, okay? But I suspect it's not quite that. I think that it might be a little less than 8.2 pounds, okay? Some person might lose 8.3. Some person might lose 7 pounds. Some person might lose 6 pounds. So my question is, when I'm going to have this variability, what is going to be the cutoff for this variability to be significant? That I would be able to say, no, it's not 8.2. And no, it's not normal variability. Okay, and the last one over here is the average age of attorneys is 25.4. Okay, so the mean age of attorneys is 25.4. Okay, now nobody tells me that they have a suspicion that it is less than 25.4 or more than 25.4. And when I do not have a suspicion of more or less, then my alternate is going to be not equals, okay? That it's not 25.4, okay? So if this is my normal variability, okay, and that variability is about 25.4, okay, how far out do you have to be? Okay, what is your age have to be that is going to be far out from the variability if I take all these samples? Okay, you have to be somewhere in those corners of that distribution. And then I know that it doesn't happen by chance. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about what are these values, what is this critical, this is the non-critical region versus these critical regions in our next video. See you then.